Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Weekly Brief. I am Robbie Feinberg. I'm Director of Communications and Government Relations for the Maine School Management Association. I'm your representative in Augusta, representing our school leaders, superintendents, and school board members all across Maine. We have got a pretty lengthy, substantive update this week. We are quickly approaching the end of the legislative session, if you can believe it. A lot of the committee work that's happening is largely wrapping up. So committees are taking all these bills, they're deciding what keeps going, what they are going to recommend, what they are going to potentially not recommend, say ought not to pass on these bills. So they're wrapping up all of that process, reporting out those bills. Then these bills are heading to the full House and the Senate from there. So things are wrapping up very quickly, and we have plenty to share with you regarding where certain bills have ended up and what we are expecting for the few weeks ahead. So let's get going. So these right here are the big news in terms of what we saw happening in particular committees over the past. I mean, this was just the past 5 days, really the past week. So we've got, some pretty consequential committee votes on important legislation that will affect schools. So we'll dive into that. So bills around teacher certification, as you see there, bills on school construction, bills around applications for employment and the information that our schools have and can access in terms of those applications, what they can know about candidates as well. So there were big committee votes on that. We have plenty what we'll share with you regarding where those stand. What we are still waiting on, and I wanted to kind of keep this at the front because it's important, is that the one bill that is still kind of hanging around in the Education Committee, this is the EPS bill LD 2226 that could make changes to school funding. Currently, there is still work being done. The DOE is still, gathering more data, doing more simulations in regards to this EPS bill. So it's to be seen kind of what happens from this, what the results will end up being on that one. We're probably going to have more work sessions either later this week or next week to continue work on that. But everything else has been wrapped up. So we'll at least be able to get into it. We don't have a huge update on the EPS bill to share right now. We can at least get into a few other bills to keep you updated. So first, LD 2175. This was the bill that we have talked about a few times that makes some really meaningful updates to teacher certification. As you may know, teacher certification, those rules, they have been changed quite a bit over the last few years. There's been a lot of different kind of infighting regarding these particular rules in the legislature. But over the past roughly 2 years, the state board has really worked with the field in terms of meaningfully working to update teacher certification, strengthening our educator workforce. And ultimately, what the result was from the state board were rules that pretty much every single educational organization, MSSA, MSBA, MEA, MACT, the CTE directors, MPA, the principals, special education administrators, all of our groups kind of came together and said, we support these changes because the state board really did quite a bit of work and listened to us. So we are pleased to share that the majority of the Education Committee did vote to ought to pass as amended on these rules here. And they did vote ought to pass as amended. So what that means is that this bill will now go to the full House and Senate over the coming weeks. And if these changes are ultimately adopted by the full House and Senate, it will make some real positive changes. The biggest change that we've talked about with you all is introducing a new portfolio pathway. And what this is really designed to do is to really uplift local professional development, getting higher education, working more closely with local districts, and really allowing more personalized pathways into the education profession, or from, potentially one endorsement area to another. If you have one endorsement for, say, one particular content area, want to go to another, something like that, this allows for you to be able to take that path, as well as allowing for a more personalized path for someone going into the profession as well. We're really pleased that this was able to get approved. It certainly is by no means done yet. Things will be going into the House and the Senate, and there'll be a lot more work ahead. But we do believe that these would be meaningful, positive changes. And we will be reaching out to you all to reach out to your local legislators to urge them to support this as well in the coming weeks. Now, I also wanted to move on to talk a little bit about LD 1892. This was a bill that's been sitting around actually since the first year of this legislative session. Was really to do with school construction and kind of the effort from the Education Committee to really confront Maine's school construction crisis that so many districts are facing and trying to deal with it. So ultimately, the Education Committee came out to support by this was a majority of the Education Committee again to support what ended up being this amended plan that I'm going to share with you right here that would take several steps that we feel are really positive steps to address school construction. So this amended bill LD 1892, first of all, it would allocate up to $50 million annually to the school revolving renovation program, the revolving renovation fund, and would also increase the limit on project applications to that fund. Currently, you can only apply for a project of up to around $2 million. This would allow you to go to $8 million. We feel like this is a major, major move that would be really positive for our schools. $8 million project, if you're going up to that much, what that really allows, this is something our superintendents have been talking about, is it really allows for some of those in-between projects. So it's not necessarily just a roof repair or something like that, which is obviously important, but it's also not a full new building, but it could allow for meaningful upgrades that are kind of in between those two. And the real goal of adding more funding to this and really working on this and allowing for more projects this way is that hopefully if there can be more of these renovations made to schools, it will reduce the need for major capital school construction. If we can address some of these on the renovation side. So we're really encouraged about this. We think that this would be a really positive change for our schools. And then we also have a few other pieces to share as well. So the state's debt service limit for its major capital school construction program, that's currently at about $150 million. And basically what that does is it decides that limit sets a ceiling on how much the state can put out to bond for new school construction, because that's the way that it really works right now, where if your school gets approved for, if your district gets approved for a new school, then the state will put out bonds to help to pay for that school. Right now, that limit is set at about $150 million. And we've really seen in recent years that the state and districts have really felt constrained because there have really been so few new schools that have actually been funded because the cost of a new school has gone up. It's really skyrocketed. So what this bill would also do is that it would increase the debt service limit from that 150 all the way up to $206 million by 2031. So it makes some really meaningful increases that way as well. So this will hopefully mean more projects going forward, more of the actual new school projects as well, which is obviously something we support. It means, more opportunities for you all to be able to get the infrastructure upgrades that you need. We wanted to also share that as part of this bill as well is what would be called a new school repair accelerator program. And this is a really interesting idea that we certainly support. It would quickly provide funds to schools that kind of have immediate needs, things like roof repairs to HVAC systems that really we're talking kind of some life safety stuff, that if this isn't working, your school may not be able to operate. And so the idea behind this kind of program is to quickly have the state provide funds to your school if you end up in this situation, really helping to fix those kinds of immediate needs. This is something, again, that we are very encouraged about. We think that this would be really helpful to schools as well, and would allow them to make sure they are functioning, that our schools are adequately functioning, and that they are doing and that they are real places of learning for our kids. So we like that. We also wanted to highlight that cost sharing has been a discussion about right now with the major capital school construction. That's 100% state funded. There have been conversations about whether there should be, local districts should be required to pay any of that as well. And that way would potentially allow for more districts to get money, just actual less money from the state for this. This idea hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. So what's going to be happening is that the DOE and the state board will be looking at doing rulemaking around this if this bill was to pass. However, there are a lot of districts that are kind of currently still in the pipeline for new school construction right now. And we don't want to upset that process for those schools that kind of already, are have been promised, we're going to get a new school. So they're going to consider what kind of a feasible timeline would be of potential, what cost sharing could look like, how much it would be, what needs to be looked at in terms of the fiscal capacity of a school district, because obviously some districts can probably make this work. Other districts just might not be able to take on any cost as well. So that is really to be seen, and that's really going to be going forward over the next 2 years, more discussions around that. But we did want to highlight what that looks like. As you can tell, on the whole, we do feel like LD 1892 is a very positive bill. We will be sharing talking points with you all, urging you to get your legislators to support it. It makes some really meaningful investments, so we'll be sharing more in the week or two ahead. And we also wanted to give an update on LD 2192. This was a bill that there's been a lot of discussion about. This is really around actually investigations of employees around certain areas of misconduct, and making sure that if there is certain misconduct, then that is shared. Make sure that those sorts of situations are shared if an employee goes from one district to the next, to make sure that districts have enough information when they are hiring someone so that they are able to really know, is this person, is this staff member, going to be a good fit for my school, and are going to keep kids safe, that they are going to be a good staff member who keeps kids safe. So there's been a lot of discussion about this, and what would potentially go into this. And what was ultimately agreed upon was an amended bill that made a lot of some changes, but also will potentially have some changes going forward. So one of the changes would be that schools will be required to report immediately to the state if they're launching a covered investigation into an employee, and there's a definition in statute of what those investigations really do entail. But would be required to report immediately. A lot of schools already do this, but this would really put that into statute. It would also say that if you are starting an investigation, you have to complete that investigation. And importantly, those investigations have to continue even if an employee leaves the district in the middle of an investigation as well. So you have to have a completed investigation if you start one, and you have to share your findings, whether it kind of exonerates the employee or whether it finds that there is some evidence that it did happen. You have to, report that to the DOE immediately at the conclusion of each investigation. So the DOE is intended to really have a clearinghouse of all of these information, all of this information as well. Also, it sets some limits when it comes to things like non-disclosure agreements and separation agreements. And then after that, also, there will be a working group that will be formed of a lot of different educational organizations. These include MSSA and MSBA, as well as the MEA as well, to continue to really work on this issue and hopefully offer further recommendations to the legislature of ways to address this. This is a really important issue. Obviously, this is about student safety, and it certainly, where we're happy that the legislature is focusing on this, and where we're eager to continue working on this, and we'll be sharing more details and more resources as this amended bill gets printed, and then also as we seek to do more on this going forward, because certainly this will remain in the conversation. Now, we want to just highlight a few things that we're watching for the rest of the legislative session. Like I mentioned, there's about, I guess, 4 weeks left right now is what we're looking at, but what we're watching for. So one is, we mentioned this already, the EPS bill, LD 2226. We're expecting a work session at some point soon on this, but that's still to come. So that's still in the Education Committee. School bus retrofitting. So we've talked about how there's some potential funding in the supplemental budget, the governor's budget proposal, to retrofit school buses with the crossing arms as well. And then we've also been working with committees on a bill that would require those crossing arms for buses and actually kind of put that into statute as well. And so working to make that really feasible for schools as well. On the subject of the supplemental budget, that is still being worked on in the Appropriations Committee, so we will see what ultimately does come from that. But those are three of the biggest issues that we're watching for. There are a few other bills that are still working their way through, but these are what we're watching. So again, about 4 weeks left in the session, and what to expect from us in the coming weeks. We will be sending out emails with talking points on individual bills. This is specifically, we're thinking on teacher certification and school construction. You'll be getting talking points on that, and as well as urging you to reach out to your local legislators and ask for their support for these bills. We'll be doing the best job that we can, but it really does require us to work together. Legislators listen to their local schools, and that will make a big difference. Now, on that subject of reaching out to your legislator, we do have a new legislative tool that we're hoping can be helpful for you, whether you're a superintendent, school board member. Sometimes it can be difficult to figure out exactly who your legislators are, who is your representative, who is your state senator. And so we have created a tool that is up on both the MSSA and MSBA websites. We'll have some links at the end of this. But basically, what it allows you to do is you go right to this page. You see it right here, and you put right in this little box here, you put in the name of your school district, or you say what town you are from. And I just did one example of RSU 17, MSAD 17 here. And it will pull up a full list. This is I was only able to fit in so much on a screenshot here, but it will pull up a full list of both your main House representatives. So the listing of who your representative are that you should be reaching out to, as well as your senators as well there. And what hopefully will be useful is you'll be given this list of all of your local legislators, and then you can click on this button up here. You see it says email all legislators. And if you click on that right there, right at the top, what that will do is it will actually immediately pop up an email from your browser of choice, whatever you have on your computer. And it'll pop up an email, and it'll have already filled in the to section of the email. It'll have in all of the emails of all of your legislators. So we're really hoping that that will make this easy. You just head to this page, type in your district, click on that button, and you can easily write an email. It'll speed up the process pretty quickly for you. And you'll also find on that page as well, it has some information on what to include in your messages to your lawmakers, what to think about. But we're hoping that when we send out an email with information and talking points, that it will be easy for you to be able to take that, use this, and get out that message very easy. So obviously reach out to us if you have questions, but we're hoping that this can be really helpful for you going forward. Now, to access this tool, if you head to our MSSA or MSBA homepages, you can find it pretty easily. So you'll find this. You'll see here this legislative resources. This is right on the homepage. You'll see it right there. And if you go over to the right, you'll see a little thing saying find your local lawmakers. Just click on that, and that will take you to this page that will give you this tool right here. We've also got it on our MSSA and MSBA legislative dashboards as well. So if you just click on this little advocacy thing right here, this dashboard page, you'll just click on that. It takes you right to the dashboard. It's got this tool right there. We're hoping that it'll be easy for you to access, and we will include a link to it with any talking points we send out because we're hoping it's helpful. And you also can see a link right here as well. Click on that, and it will take you right to the link. So we're hoping that this could be a really useful tool for your legislative advocacy locally and make this job even easier for you. Now, lastly, we just wanted to highlight quickly, coming up a week from today, March 24th, this is our MSBA Board Member Advocacy Day. We've sent out a few emails about this, but we wanted to highlight it once again. We'll be meeting with House and Senate leaders, as well as meeting with the governor's office on that morning, where we will be talking about several of the important issues that I just talked about here. We would love if you could set up time to talk with your local lawmakers as well that day about important education issues. And then we'll be wrapping up the day with a short advocacy 101 training where I'll be meeting with you all, kind of talking about the best approach you can take going forward, what you can do advocacy wise, and what to think about, as well as some complimentary lunch. So please join us if you can, if you are a board member. This is for any member of MSBA right here. Please join us. That'll be at the Main State House on March 24th. You've got that link in the Survey Monkey right there. Just fill that out and you will get all the information that you need. Thank you so much, as always, for your support. It's been a quick session. Lots has been going on, and we are very thankful, as always, for your support on these important issues. And we will be back to talk with you very soon. Thank you.